Okay, men, front and center. I wake up this morning, and like most mornings, I check my bank accounts. Even though I pretty much know what's there, I do it anyway because there can always be a surprise, right? So I check my bank account, and I notice that the service fee for the month has increased a substantial amount. This is no slight increase, a substantial amount. And when I finally broke through the phone to talk to a person about it, they explained to me that emails are sent to the customers, so there was a warning about it or whatever the case may be. And that person is probably right by telling me that. I usually don't read those emails thoroughly. What I want to say about this is this. It's a particularly new bank, and I chose them for a myriad amount of reasons. I'm going to keep it short right now so I can get to the point. And 6 months ago, just want you to hear the story. 6 months ago, this bank charged no service fee a month. Then it increased this is what I found out on the telephone prompt because I didn't read the email that was sent. On the telephone prompt, it said that the fee can be waived if you deposit a certain amount of money every month. So when I get to talk to the person on the phone, the amount that they said on the telephone prompt increased by a couple of $100, as well as the service fee for the month. So I'm thinking about, well, not a couple of $100, but a couple of dollars. It raised $2. So I'm like, this is unprecedented. I haven't ever seen this before, right? And there's a underlying factor going on here, which relates to the demand of money. You see, after talking to her for more time, she basically said, if you deposit a certain amount of money every month, then the fee will be waived. So when I calculated the amount of money that needed to be deposited, and then I compared it to the amount of money that I deposit into my personal account, because you got to understand I run a business. So I take money from the working capital and I give myself an income, right? So once I'm comparing it, I'm like, well, I don't need the extra money that they're asking for in order for me to waive the fee, right? So it puts me in a situation where, do I start paying myself money just to waive this fee, or should I take my money out of this bank, right? And you may ask yourself, well, don't you want to do more things? Don't you want to move around? Like, I could ask myself all of those questions, right? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I could if I just want to be on the self notion that, yeah, I want to do more things. I want to be able to do more things. However, in business, it just doesn't work that way. Like, if you, like for me, for instance, right, all of my bills are paid with the income that I have now. So there's no demand for me to go all over the world and do other things like that. Like, my business hasn't expanded that far yet, right? So I'm being careful and cautious when I make these decisions on whether I should do this or not. So it's kind of a shame that I actually went to take the money out of the bank. It's kind of a shame. And lo and behold, since the minimum wage is raising in the state and everything like that, like, I'm making those adjustments to the incomes and my business to reflect that, right? And I think that's great. I think for a better quality of life, we should raise the minimum wage and I should pay myself more money. However, the amount that they were asking, it fell just short of the amount that I'm asking. The amount that I raised my income to for this year fell just short of the amount that they're asking. So my choice was to not pay myself the extra money to fit the criteria to keep that bank. And I'm going to give you one reason why. First of all, there's no savings account in that bank. So there's no even if I kept the money in that bank, the interest rate is so low, it wouldn't be a beneficial factor for me because I wouldn't even be making money off of that. Now, I do have another account on the other hand, which has a savings account, which has a very decent interest rate compared to a whole lot of other banks, right? So I'd rather put my money there because I'm more stationed. It's different when you're more mobile, right? And I want to make this key point, right? I'm going to make this a key point. There's an underlying factor here going on that there's this demand for money when there really isn't. And speed is a factor that ties into this. And for those who live life fast, and you can attach this to all of the factors and materials that have to do with speed, for those people, yes, it makes sense, right? Because if you need the car to go everywhere, all the time, and you need the gas money to get there all the time, and you're always on go 24/7, yes, then these things benefit you. Whether they benefit your savings, whether they benefit your quality of life, your well-being, that's beyond me. I don't know. Like, I know some people who do everything and they're miserable. I don't want them around me. So to each his own, right? However, for me, the cash is not on demand. You see, money is the byproduct of everything else. So when you got things like your home paid for, and your transportation for the most part paid for, however you use it, whatever business you do, like, as long as you have those expenses covered, everything else is like a bonus, right? If you can take a couple of trips here and there around to a museum or whatever, and have a good day, go to an art gallery or something like that. If you have those expenses, those miscellaneous money's laying around, that's great, fantastic. That adds on to the quality of life, right? However, if you're just doing it for the sake of keeping up with the Joneses, then that's not playing defense, that's playing offense. And let me tell you something, right? From being in the States, we have the greatest offense in the world, hands down. Defense, though, no, we don't. And that's why I want to make this point, man. If I would have made that decision to just pay myself a couple of dollars more to keep up with the Joneses, so to say, or just make up something that I can add on to my leisure time list, then I would have been doing myself a disservice, because I want to add on to the offense of my business, which is creating products of value that I can sell for a high price, or should I say a qualitative price? Because see, here's where people slip in the States when it comes to defense. People are hell bent on buying things at a good price or a cheap price, and they believe that that's called saving money, when in all actuality it's not. When you buy something of quality, you end up paying more money for it. So it's just like, this is how America stays ahead of the curve. Just an example, right? Engineering, we're great at engineering, right? So you have these great engineers who build this great machinery, these great objects that is still needed in the industrial world. So think to yourself, how much does one of those items cost, right? Costs a lot of money. And then when you think about how our tax structure is set up, think about how that same item being sold is being heavily taxed. Okay, we have to deal with it. That's the States, right? We already know how much we tax everything. All right, we have to deal with that. However, the point that I'm making here is that is a powerful offensive move, because you have a powerful qualitative product that is being designed and built and makes the way of life even better, right? So that's offense. If I was building those products like the engineers were, I would have more than likely increased my income, because I can sustain the type of lifestyle that would probably need more tools to build those types of things, and more creative space to have a better mental state when doing that. So I would use that money to invest in myself more. You understand what I'm saying? However, at this point, I should be building defense as much as possible and designing those same type of qualitative products for my firm, for my business, so that I can sell at a qualitative price, so the same thing can occur. However, if I sweep the own rug from under my own feet, then I leave myself open for service fees, such as that $5.95 from that bank. No money is too small to overlook and say, you know what, that is all right. That's water under the bridge. No, it's not all right. It's good that you wake up in the morning and you check your accounts to catch these things. Call those places. Talk to those people. Talk to the employees. Find out the information. You understand what I'm talking about? And it goes even further to where I know that I have an upcoming, and this is another thing you have to keep in mind. Auto ships are costly. Auto ships is something that forces the same speed factors that I'm talking about in the economy. So, as a businessman, like, I make investments, right? I do photography as one of my outlets for my firm. So, I invested in a company who I did research on. I checked the stock, and I noticed that the stock was relatively high, right? And I said, that's a well-performing stock. Now, I use a lot of their products. Their products are awesome, right? They have qualitative products to the core, no doubt about it. So, however, though, when I went to invest in their service from to generate revenue from photography, I noticed something, that their entry fee and their service fees are very high. Very high. And not only that, they have a lot of stipulations. So here there's an auto ship fee. Like there's a commitment. So this is basically what I'm saying. Commitments are dangerous and how they can be. There's a commitment that you have to keep paying money, a certain amount of money a month, in order to stay with the service. Now, here's what happens. And I'm no sucker. Like, I know how to compete. I'm no sucker, right? So I'm going out in the world. I'm having a ball. I'm going all around the place. I'm taking photos. I'm doing photo shoots. And it's great. You know, I know about lighting. I know a few things. I'm not the expert just as of yet, per se. However, I'm doing well. So, you know, I submit some of my photos, and I'd say about 15% of my photos are being accepted. Right. And then, you know, they have these reasons of why they're not being accepted. And I read them and I'm like, oh, man, it's frustrating. Right. It's very tedious to, you know, the intellectual property and things of that nature. And then I had to think for a minute, and I sat down and I said, well, what about Instagram? What about Facebook? What about, you know, all these outlets that we have to our that we have to access for no charge? Right. And just think about this yourself, how many photos you post. And also freelance photographers, I'm talking to you as well, that you post and you get likes and you get comments on, and they're like, you know, they're great, it's beautiful, you know, and nobody's like jumping down your throat talking about, oh no, I saw a symbol of mine in there and you're gonna have to take that down. And well, that's coming soon. Like, it's already happening on like YouTube and stuff like that. I'm just saying, for the most part though, you can be hired from people who are viewing these sites like Instagram and Twitter and Flickr. Like, people are actually looking on those sites to hire freelancers. So this brought another thing upon me to make another decision to say, you know what, I'm going to opt out of that service that I invested in. And, you know, I'll be hit with a fee because of it. You know what I'm saying? And I'd say this, like, I probably won't even pay the fee. You know what I mean? Maybe later on in life, but right now I probably won't even pay it. Like, you can put it on my credit report. Like, I don't even care. You know what I mean? Because this is what is supposed to be. This is what masks the American dream. This is what is being covered up that people don't know about. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's best to be aware of these types of things, because in order for them to keep a stock that high, they have to charge a fee that high, and they know that their competition is Instagram, your Facebooks. You understand what I'm saying? So what that had me do was go and take my photos, some of the greatest ones that they rejected as well, and put those photos on my own website, on my own online dating site, because I know, you know, not only just myself, like, I'm not even going to toot my own horn of vanity right now. Like, I know a myriad of people who take beautiful photos, who have great photos, and they really make people's day when they take their photos. You know what I'm saying? And I consider myself to be one of those persons when I get good and ready. So I decided to, you know, put my photos on my business, on a business site, on an online dating site, and begin to sell my photos from there. You know, and if you join the site, then you will be privy to see some of those photos from there. You know, because it's just like, and, you know, my prices will be much lower than the prices of this company that I'm talking about, which charges such a large fee to be a part of it, you know, and to land a 15%. You know, I could be better at photography. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not passing any blame. I'm just saying the stress that comes from this constant need to be ready to pay so much money to move such quickly and aggressively for things that you can't outrun is a disservice to the person participating and depositing monies into these businesses, because the cost benefit analysis is just negative. Right? You could hold on to your money and just wait for something better to happen. And especially with the speed of how technology changes, it would behoove you to do so. Right? So keep this in mind when you're dealing with your banks, and, you know, you're dealing with a whole lot of things, because there's this mistake that a lot of people are making. See, they're basing this on the average American. Notice I said average, keyword in statistics. And this is why outliers, for researchers, this is why outliers can be so important, because you get to pinpoint the geniuses, and at the same time, there's a flip side to it. You get to pinpoint the people who are dragging. And for a country or a nation who measures on an aggregate, this is even more important. And I may do a video on outliers and the difference between raw scores and standard scores and how those can benefit researchers in the economy.